Ooh, ba da ba da ba da ba. Looking for group. Hello and welcome to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Red on the internet and Matthew in real life. Today, we have 3 new miner releases. We're going to be talking about those for sure. Some really huge improvements on the AMD side in some of these miners. We're also going to be talking about memory specifications for the GTX 1630. And specifications for the RTX 4090 Ti and 4090. We also have more mining information. New York Bitcoin miners are starting to give up on New York and move out. And at the same time, ASIC manufacturers have tripled their revenue in Q1 of 2022 despite the downturn of the markets. We also have the Biden administration wanting to put in rules for thee and not for me. And the thee is, of course, the people, and the me is the corporation. So we'll get into all of this right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options including wire transfers to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Welcome back, and don't forget to hit that like button. It lets the YouTube algorithm know you enjoy the content, and it shares it out to all the people. Let's get things started with BZ Miner version 9.1.4, released 1 hour ago. What's in this release? They fixed the 100% LHR unlock V1 not working on older Linux NVIDIA drivers, 511 and below. Core memory and power limit throttle notifications. They added the cache DAG option for ETH and ZIL mining. They fixed the eZIL pool protocol, and they added the update frequency shares option to update display only after X shares are found. They fixed Windows memory temps not showing on NVIDIA driver 466. They fixed an auto fan temperature range not working correctly. They fixed Ixion not reconnecting to the pool properly, and they fixed timing's name column not expanding properly, and they added the ETH ZIL scripts. I've been using BZ Miner to test out mining Ixion. I'm also on the Ixion app. They have a messenger app that's encrypted and built on the blockchain. I haven't really formed all of my opinions on it yet, but that is something that's in the background. Kind of got that ADD when it comes to crypto, and sometimes it's really hard to cover everything that I'm playing with all the time, but I like to at least note them on the show when I am. I believe the app is called Spixie, so if you want to check it out, definitely check it out. I'm on there. I believe I've linked on Twitter my Spixie account, so you can chat with me on the messenger and we can test it out, whatnot. Let's talk about LOL Miner version 1.51, released 4 hours ago. So here's the changes versus 1.50. Windows significantly improved the speed of NVIDIA ET hash mining. They extended working range of 100% LHR unlocker to 470 and 472 drivers. And it says, please do not use the new 515 drivers on the unlock currently. It does not work. New parameter for dual mining, dual factor. The default is auto, and it says see the note below. Fixes. Linux fixed a bug causing the zombie mode on 5G Pascal GPUs, the 1065 gigabyte and the P2000 not to work. It was causing it not to work. Minor light hash rate unlocker stability improvements. Don't know exactly what those are. So here's how to use the dual factor parameter. This parameter can be used as a more direct alternative to the max dual impact. It is built in a way such that the hash rate of the TON Alephium solver will be dual factor times ETH hash rate. So for example, if the factor is 25 and the ETH hash rate is 59.5 mega hash, then the dual hash rate will be 25 times 5 or 59.5 mega hash a second, equaling 1487.5 mega hash a second. The maximum dual factor at the moment is 64. A value of 0 will disable dual mining on the GPU. Using the parameter will skip all tuning of the dual algorithm and set the ratio directly after the DAG build. Note that if you want to turn the value too high, then the ET hash rate might fall. Turning it lower usually decreases energy intake. The parameter takes a comma-separated list of values where auto or a star can be used to skip over a GPU that should remain in auto-tuning mode. If you use the devices parameter for restricting to some GPUs, then also it is sufficient to define it for the selected GPUs only. Note that the old max dual impact parameter now also understands auto to keep it more consistent. Not huge changes here, other than there are important notes on the drivers that you should take into account, and maybe there's some testing that should be done on the LHR stability. It's been a while since we've really gotten anything significant from the AMD front, and unfortunately, it seems to be continuing that way with the RX 6000 series. However, if you are running the older big Navi stuff like the RX 5000 series and so on, or small Navi, excuse me, instead of the big Navi, which is the 6000, then you have the new R mode from Team Redminer, and it's version 0.10.0. We talked about their beta release. This is kind of a public release for R mode, and it's available now as a custom image for Hive OS 2. So even though Hive doesn't have it imported by default quite yet, now that was of last night when I was deploying it, you can deploy it through a custom miner configuration in your flight sheet within Hive OS, and we'll show you guys that as well. I'm still working on stability per rig. I'm having some issues here and there. We'll talk about those as well, but the R mode public release, bringing significant efficiency improvements on a range of AMD GPUs. There's a snake in my throat. Sorry, let me get it cleared out, huh? Please read the ET hash R mode tuning guide for more information before enabling. Here's the README highlights. GPU R mode introduced. See separate documentation applicable for Vegas V2s, or this Vega 7s, Navi 10, and Big Navi. They also have a smooth power transitions for ET hash family algos, and they added support for multiple API listen and API listen to parameter endpoints, or parameters for the endpoints, up to 8 total. On FPGAs, they fixed a crash bug with greater than 16 FPGAs running in a single miner instance. And they added the argument GPU SDMA for on or off for special situations. Example for the BC250 needs GPU SDMA equals off. Note they also include the Hive custom miner, which is right here. So let me show you guys. We actually have a rig up and running it. And I tried removing overclocks on this. It was getting invalid shares. It's continuing to get invalid shares. I probably need to modify it. And then some of these cards aren't flashed. Like this MSI was having some issues, so I had flashed it back. The thermal pads are now replaced, so we're going to get into it. We're getting some really good temperatures now that we started moving to essentially server cases at this point. As you can see, we have 8 in this particular server case. There are still about 3 that are getting high temperatures. Mind you, we are sitting in like 120 to 130 degree or Fahrenheit degree ambient temperature right now. So these temperatures are really, really good. And a huge thanks to that is due to, of course, this R mode. But what you'll notice here is like sometimes the R mode is not fully applying. So it's very odd. Where it does apply and when it does apply it helps my rig significantly. It drops the temperatures. It drops the power consumption by about 25 watts in the software. And that is all due to being able to drop the core down to 1025 megahertz, the core voltage down to 665, and then of course your memory voltage from 825 to 800 and 1325 to 1300, while still maintaining a memory clock in most cases of 900 megahertz. This is pretty insane. If you do have 5700s, I recommend starting to get your rig stable on it. I only have 3 rigs stable on it right now, but if you hit the flight sheet and we edit it, I'll show you guys what you need to change. So you'll have your coin up here as ETH. You'll have your wallet as crypto.com because you signed up with crypto.com using the SOAT code for the additional $25 sign up bonus, right? Right? You did that? All right. Anyways, and then you're going to set your pool. And then under the miner, you're going to set up your miner config. And basically, I think where mine is messed up here is this pool URL. And I'm going to talk about that because we need to set this to like the nice hash realm. And I think that's what's causing me some issues here. And we'll talk about that in a different video. But if you're not on Crazy Pool, it doesn't matter. All you have to do is essentially come down, select a custom miner, then come into here, go to the GitHub. All you got to do is right click and say copy link address on the TRM custom miner. Come into here and paste it into the installation URL. The other thing that you must do is set your extra config arguments. Remember, it's only on these supported cards, so don't be doing on the 6000 series or whatever. I guess you could. Well, let me see. Hold on. I think the 6000 series are technically supported. Big Navi, yes. I haven't tested it on 6000 series yet. All right. So you're going to want to make sure that you put in this kernel underscore VM underscore mode equals RR. And then you are good to go. So this is pretty much all you got to do as far as getting the miner within your Hive OS. And then I'll do a more detailed, dedicated video on it as I figure out, you know, stability tweaks, etc. I see you guys have essentially some suggestions like delaying overclock, whatever. I'll get into it. I'll try to get like some sort of guide that goes across all of it. Obviously, I need to get it deployed on the RX 6000 series rig as well, so that we can start playing with voltages, etc. over there and see if we get any significant improvements. I need to get it deployed to RX 5600 XTs as well too. But right off the bat, you know, this is a savior for the summer for me because I have like 60 5700 XTs. And you can see that when those overclocks are applied, we are dropping not only power consumption, but heat like a ton, which is going to be a game changer for me and hopefully for some of y'all as well. Now, you know what will not be a game changer is the GTX 1630, at least for mining, because unfortunately, we aren't getting a great bus. This is a very tiny bus. I do not like little buses. I cannot lie. We now have almost full details on the upcoming new entry-level GPU. We have been provided with the specs and launch date for the GTX 1630. NVIDIA's first GTX 30 model, not GT. This card will be based on the GTX 1650 model with some tweaks, of course. Some quote necessary cutbacks. NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1630 will be based on the 12 nanometer Turing TU 117-150 GPU. It carries different specs than the GTX 1650 TU 117-300. We are looking at even fewer cores and reduced memory bus. The GTX 1630 will ship with 512 CUDA cores, which is half of what the full GPU offers. Furthermore, the card will feature a 64-bit memory bus, which is again half of the full 128-bit config. The GTX 1630 will feature a much higher boost clock than the 1650 series. According to our information, the GPU clock goes up to 1800 megahertz. Interestingly, this might be the reason why the TDP has not been reduced and remains at 75 watts. So you're basically getting less cores at a higher clock, same power consumption, and a tiny, tiny little bus. The card will feature 4 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory clocked at 12 gigabits per second. This means that the maximum theoretical speed will be 96 gigabytes per second. Not a huge downgrade compared to the GTX 1650 with the GDDR5 memory, the original SKU, but that's only half of what the GDDR6 model offers. NVIDIA has set the launch date for May 31st. This probably means we will be hearing some news next week at Computek's keynote. The pricing has not yet been confirmed. So basically, as you can see here, if we compare it across to a 1650, you're getting a small memory bus, you're getting slower memory, or well, not slower memory, but slower memory than other GDDR6 or whatever. You're only getting 4 gigabytes of it. Total bandwidth, 96 gigabytes per second. Even if it could mine ETH, which it can't because of the memory configuration, you're probably not going to be getting that much hash rate, right? So maybe like a quarter of the bandwidth of like a 3060 or something like that. So, or a 3060 Ti, somewhere around there. Yeah. Anyways, what does that come out to? 15 mega hash a second if it had enough memory on board for it. But it's interesting that we have a 30 series that does have GDDR6, because previously you would see like DDR3 in a 1030, for example, or something along those lines. If it's cheap enough and there's some other algos that can mine, the high core clock could make it interesting in some algorithms. Because of the cheap price, I'll probably pick one up and do some testing for you guys. What I might not be able to pick up is the RTX 4090 Ti and 4090 due to the price being more than I can afford. But that being said, we do have specifications on it. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 Ti and 4090 graphics cards are going to be the next-gen flagships for the Green Team, ushering in performance levels never before seen in the PC gaming segment. And here's everything from specs, price, and performance that you need to know. This was updated, is as of what is this? The 19th. Yes, as of the 19th. The NVIDIA RTX 3090 series proved that the Green Team can go to the extreme lengths to secure their lead in the PC graphics segment. Labeled as BF GPU, a new breed of enthusiast and ultimate graphics cards, these provide the best performance possible with the best possible PC gaming features in a package that's next to none. NVIDIA's direction with the BF GPU was to design a graphics card not just for the ultimate gamer, but also for the professional content creators too, who also want to have the best graphics card performance at hand to power the next generation of AAA gaming titles with superb visuals and insane fluidity, blah, 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 blah. We should expect similar things with the next flagship is what they say. So let's get into the specifications. Starting with the GPU configuration, Copite 7 Kimi compares the top 8102 GPU to various other GPUs from the Green Team. These include the gaming focus Ampere GA102 and Turing TU102, while there's also the HPC focused Hopper GH100 and Ampere GA100 added to the list. I'll only compare the AD102 to its gaming predecessor since the HPC focused designs are vastly different than consumer-centric offerings. The GPU is said to measure around 600 millimeters squared and will utilize the TSMC 4nm process node, which is an optimized version of TSMC's 5nm N5 node designed for the Green Team. The NVIDIA Lovelace AD102 GPU will feature up to 12 GPC graphics processing clusters. This is an increase of 70% versus GA102, which features only 7 GPCs. Each GPU will consist of 6 TPCs and 2 SMs, which is the same configuration as the existing chip. Each SM, which stands for Streaming Multiprocessor, will house 4 subcores, which is also the same as the GA102 GPU. What's changed is the FP32 and the INT32 core configuration. Each subcore will include 128 FP32 units, but combined FP32 plus INT32 units or INT32 units will go up to 192. This is because the FP32 units don't share the same subcore as the IN32 units. The 128 FP32 cores are separate from the 64 INT cores, or 32 cores. So in total, each subcore will consist of 128 FP32 plus 64 INT32 units for a total of 192 units. Each SM will have a total of 512 FP32 units plus 256 INT32 units for a total of 768 units. And since there are a total of 24 SM units, 2 per GPC, we are looking at 12,288 FP32 units and 6,144 INT32 units for a total of 18,432 cores. Each SM will also include 2 wrap schedules, 32 thread per clock for 64 wraps per SM. This is a 50% increase on the cores and a 30% increase in wraps and threads versus the GA102. Moving over to the cache, this is another segment where NVIDIA has given a big boost over the existing Ampere GPUs. The Ada Lovelace GPU will pack 192 kilobytes of L1 cache per SM, an increase of 50% over Ampere. Still way short compared to RX 7000 series, by the way. That's a total of 4.5 megabytes of L1 cache on the top 8102 GPU. The L2 cache will be increased to 96 megabytes as mentioned in the leaks. This is a 16 times increase over the Ampere GPU and hosts just 6 megabytes of L2 cache. The cache will be shared across the GPU. Finally, we have the ROPS, which are also increased to 32 per GPC, an increase of 2 times over Ampere. You are looking at up to 384 ROPS on the next gen flagship versus the just 112 on the fastest Ampere GPU, the RTX 3090 Ti. There are also going to be the latest 4th gen Tensor and 3rd generation RT ray tracing cores infused on the Ada Lovelace GPUs, which will help boost DLSS ray tracing performance to the next level. Overall, the Ada Lovelace AD102 GPU will offer 2 GPCs, 50% more cores, 50% more L1 cache, 16 times more L2 cache, double the ROPS, and a 4th gen Tensor and 3rd gen ray tracing cores. Do note that clock speeds, which are said to be between 2 and 3 gigahertz range, aren't taken into the equation, so they will play a major role in improving the per core performance versus Ampere. The NVIDIA RTX 4090 Ti and 4090 are expected to be the only 2 chips powered by the top 8102 GPU, which has been detailed above. As we saw with the RTX 3090 Ti and the RTX 3090, both will feature different SKUs on the same chip. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 Ti is going to be the full fat configuration with all of the 144 SMs enabled for a total of 18,432 CUDA cores. The GPU will come packed with 96 megabytes of L2 cache and a total of 384 ROPS, which is simply insane, is what the article says. That's their opinion. It's not a lot of L2 cache compared to the RX 7000, in my humble opinion. As for memory specs, the GeForce RTX 4090 Ti is expected to rock 24 gigabytes, and this is what we care about for mining, 24 gigabytes of GDDR6X capacities that might come at a faster 24 gigabits per second speed across a 384-bit bus interface, which should provide up to 1.152 terabytes a second of bandwidth. So we're talking about quite a bit more, like what was that? I don't know, 10, not quite a bit more. That's really only like what, 15% more than the current top-end 3090 Ti. Now, all these boosted specifications will result in a higher power draw too, and the flagship is expected to operate at a TBP, total board power, of around 600 watts. Now, for 600 watts, a single 16-pin Gen 5 connector should be enough, but most of the custom variants will definitely end up utilizing dual Gen 5 connectors, since AIBs don't necessarily stay within spec, and even the slightest of factory overclocks will push the total board power above 600 watts. And if you're looking at this for mining, especially mining algorithms that are memory intensive, you're only getting a 15% increase in the potential bandwidth, right? If it hits the 24 gigabits per second speed on the GDDR6X, you're only talking about a 15% improvement there, while having a 50% increase in power consumption potentially, right? And yes, the memory will be using more power because it's being clocked higher. And that's going to be kind of a problem. We have also seen an alleged NVIDIA RTX 4090 Ti heatsink and cooler shroud, which hints at the use of a beefier cold plate that provides coverage for both the GPU and memory dies, along with an overall larger structure. We talked about this last week. The leaked cooler is a Founders Edition design, and judging by how big it looks, the AIB models will end up being vastly bigger and may even end up with a quad slot design from all the partners. The 4090 is going to be a cut down configuration with 126 SMs enabled for a total of 16,128 CUDA cores. The GPU might also cut down the L2 cache a bit, while the ROP count will definitely be lower due to the lower number of GPCs. As for clocks, expect the non-TI model to come at slightly reduced speeds, but still fast enough versus the 3090 Ti. As for memory specs, the 4090 is also expected to run the GDDR6X capacities, but at a slower 21 gigabit per second speed across a 384-bit bus. This will provide, of course, 1 terabytes a second of bandwidth. This means essentially you will have 3090 Ti mining performance, albeit with a higher TGP of 450 watts. So 4090 is not looking that enticing either for mining, of course, once again, memory-specific algorithms. Depending on how these function on other algorithms, though, things could get really interesting. Things like Flux, things like Ravencoin, so on. I'm just not that excited about these for mining because they seem expensive, they seem power hungry, and they didn't get enough memory boost for me to be extremely interested in them, and they're not doing anything innovative. So why does that set it apart from the RX 7000 series? Because the RX 7000 series at least intrigues me from an architectural design with the multi-chip modules and the infinity cache boosting the potential memory bandwidth up to 1.7 terabytes a second. Of course, that probably won't be applicable for mining because that probably won't be utilized. However, it's just a more interesting release as opposed to what NVIDIA is doing, which is throw more power at it and burn everybody's house down. That's how it looks like in the competition right now to me. Let me know what you guys think. Are you excited more for Ada Lovelace or more for Radeon 7000 series? Let's get a poll going. Oh. I'll ask the community. See what you guys think. All right, and then we are also going to be getting into New York Bitcoin miners are starting to give up on the state amid regulatory uncertainty. I don't think that this is a surprise really to anyone, but let's get into it. Bum, 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 bum. New York was once a draw for miners, but environmental concerns are weighing on the industry. New York's Bitcoin mining companies are increasingly considering abandoning their aspirations in what was once a promised land as the state's legislature considers a bill to ban new mining projects that use carbon-based energy sources, pending a review of the industry's environmental impact. The New York State Senate is looking at a bill calling for a 2-year moratorium on new crypto mining projects that use gas, coal, or other non-renewable energy sources after the assembly version of the bill passed the state's lower house last month. Quote, all cryptocurrency companies have a permanent hold on starting businesses in New York due to the political and regulatory ambiguity. If the bill were to pass, New York would become a permanent afterthought for the industry, end quote, said Kyle Schnaps, director of public policy at Foundry, one of the largest miners in the U.S., which is based in Rochester, New York. Foundry is owned by CoinDesk's parent company, Digital Currency Group. So keep in mind, this is also an article on CoinDesk. So yeah, Foundry's planned expansions in the state will quote, will be curtailed along with hiring, end quote, Schnapp said. The bill, which passed to the state Senate in late April, calls for a moratorium on proof-of-work mining powered by non-renewable sources, the type used in the Bitcoin network, in the state while its environmental impact is assessed. Most crypto mining companies are staying away from the state because of authorities' seemingly negative stance towards the industry, said Whit Gibbs, CEO of Compass Mining, a marketplace that matches miners with investors around the world. Didar, co-founder of Kazakhstan's based miner Zive.io, who wants to expand operations into the U.S., told CoinDesk that he is leaning towards Texas because of favorable regulation and the availability of cheap electricity. Regulatory uncertainty, including the bill, is one reason why mining firms are less likely to move to New York. One executive from a local mining hosting firm told CoinDesk, increases in the energy prices are another reason. The executive attributed the uptick in electricity rates to global macro events such as the conflict in Ukraine, as well as the growing cost of complying with renewable energy mandates in New York. The executive asked not to be identified, citing fear of retribution from environmental advocates and local officials. There are more people on your side than you think. Just you don't have to dox yourself, but look, just speak out. It's fine. This bill sends a, quote, clear message to the crypto industry that New York is closed for business, end quote, Snepsh said. It sets a dangerous precedent and is a case of government overreach in that it limits a new industry's right to energy, thus dooming the industry to failure, he said. And that is an interesting one. Limiting one industry's access to power over another industry's access to power, especially if you consider the fact that crypto mining is not as environmentally damaging from what we started to see in a lot of the papers as some other industries. Look, it's just the way it is. We also, every time we talk about this, I want to bring it up, but the capabilities of cryptocurrency mining to reduce the waste of power consumption. And I think that's a fair point that should be brought up more. But this is frustrating for sure. And I think I do agree here as far as it's setting a dangerous precedent in the case of government overreach. And you shouldn't limit one industry over another industry. While the bill targets only mining operations that use fossil fuels, those that use renewable energy are wondering if they are next. John Olson, who leads the New York policy and advocacy group, the Blockchain Association, told CoinDesk, the original language of the bill called for a moratorium on all types of mining, he said. Quote, any kind of moratorium in statute is problematic because it can always be expanded or extended, end quote, Olson said. And this goes back, this frustrates me because this goes back to what we've talked about before, where they're utilizing the environmental argument to attack cryptocurrency mining and proof of work. But when it actually comes to the writing of the policies, it's clear that they are targeting cryptocurrency mining and proof of work as a whole. And as far as the environmental portion, that's just FUD. That's an excuse. It's not the real reason. The real reason is they have better control over proof of stake projects. Hence, if you want to get on tinfoil hats, why you see problems with UST and Luna recently, why we hear rumors of attacks that will be happening on other proof of stake chains. This is some sort of concerted effort to get rid of proof of work by the government. To me is what it seems like, because why wouldn't there be some sort of stipulation between if you hit these marks with renewable, then you're okay? No, we're just going to ban it all. We're going to use this excuse of environmental concerns, but we're going to ban all of it. It doesn't add up. Seems like a concerted attack on proof of work. Miners that Valkyrie Investments has spoken to think that passing such regulations would likely cause them to reconsider New York going forward, said Stephen McClurg, the asset management firm's chief investment officer. But as the situation stands now, renewable energy powered mines don't have much reason to move elsewhere, he said. CoinMint, which operates a Bitcoin mine with 435 megawatts of power capacity at a former aluminum smelter in Messina, New York, refused to comment on the bill specifically. But CEO David Fogel said its New York subsidiary operates, quote, in an environmentally responsible way by using renewable hydroelectric power, end quote. Investments in mining in New York predate the exodus of miners from China, and the state is now at the epicenter of a debate about how to regulate miners in the U.S. New York is rich in hydroelectric power. 70% of its locally produced energy is hydro, but that supplies only a quarter of the energy demand in the state, according to the state's power authority. It also boasts some of the cheapest electricity prices for businesses in the northeastern U.S. Environmental concerns have followed the crypto miners, with one mine in particular the target of environmentalist ire, the Greenidge mine near Seneca Lake in upstate New York. It's a 1937 coal power plant that was converted into a natural gas facility in 2014 and now houses 19,400 Bitcoin mining rigs, with plans to add another 29,800 machines by the end of the year. Environmentalists claim that the mine is polluting the lake and jeopardizes the state's carbon emissions goals. My head just broke. Can somebody explain to me how the miners themselves are emitting any kind of carbon pollution? Am I missing something? The data centers, are they just spitting out carbon all over the place? And I didn't know this. And I've been spending all my time in these data centers breathing in okay, what? That doesn't even make sense. They have asked authorities and the government to deny renewal of the plant's air pollution permits. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation put off a decision on the issue until June 30th, just 2 days after the primaries are scheduled to be held to nominate candidates for governor, while the state Supreme Court denied a preliminary injunction that would have stopped the mine's operations before a decision is made. In December of last year, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, a Democrat, asked the company to provide information about its carbon footprint, saying that, quote, mining operations at Green Ridge and other plants raise concerns about their impacts on global environment, on local ecosystems, and on consumer electricity quotes or costs, end quote. Hey, go ask Google, your little butt buddies, about how much pollution their data centers are pumping out. All right? Little Senator Warren getting your little, golly, come on. This is just dumb. This is like, bro, it doesn't even make sense. Hey guys, I didn't know if you know this, but your computers are emitting carbon. You devil. Look, carbon and like as far as environmental impact, the energy you use has an environmental impact, yes. As far as carbon emissions and etc., it depends on the type of power that you're utilizing, right? But the specific machine that you're utilizing doesn't, like, as far as like the PC itself isn't like emitting carbon. That now, there could be some like there are things that we could talk about from that perspective as well, though. Like there would be different cars, whatever. If you're utilizing a vehicle, yes, that would have carbon emissions or whatever. But the problem that I have here is it seems like they're specifically saying that the mine here is polluting the lake, which doesn't make much sense at all because it's being powered, 70% of it's being powered off of the hydro. So it doesn't like once again, like it comes down to like the argument not lining up with the actions. It just doesn't really make sense. It doesn't compute. I don't know what you guys are doing in New York, but it's confusing me. It's you guys. I like. Do we like? I don't know. My brain hurts. Let's go ahead and talk about mining rig maker Canaan Q1 revenue more than triples. This is interesting because, once again, we talk about this all the time. Bitcoin mining is increasing. The hash rate is increasing regardless of the price of Bitcoin. And case in point is hardware manufacturers are still increasing their revenue despite the downturn in, of course, the price of Bitcoin. Canaan shares climbed after first quarter earnings beat one analyst's estimates. Supercomputing solutions company Canaan, which specializes in Bitcoin mining hardware, said revenue surged 237% from the year earlier quarter to $213.9 million US. The one analyst cited on Yahoo Finance had forecasted $27.37 million US, seeking alpha. Also, with one analyst estimated $213.86 million US. I think this number's wrong here. Net income climbed to $69.7 million US. Earnings per share were 2.7% or 41 cents per ADS, the company said. Seeking Alpha cited an EPS estimate of 50 cents. The Beijing-based company faced a logistics suspension caused by COVID-19 lockdowns in China, which delayed shipments and adversely affected its revenue for the quarter, said CEO Nanjun Zhang, something like that. Quote, looking ahead, while we are cognizant of the near-term headwinds, we are confident that our extensive experience, increased globalization operations, and execution capabilities put us in a solid position to navigate the current period of uncertainty, end quote, Zhang said. The company held 166.96 Bitcoins on its balance sheet as of March 31st. Shares of the company rose about 15% to $3.58 at market open. $3.58. I'm so used to always saying like 0.5 billion. Anyways, still 60% below its value a year ago when they were trading around $8.50. Canaan bought $10.3 million worth of its own stock in the quarter, completing a $20 million share repurchase program announced in September of 2021. During the quarter, the company approved a plan to buy up 100. There we go. I think we're back. I'm not sure why we had a dip. It happens every time I have any sort of lawn work go on, and that's because AT&T is not buried in my line yet, and I think that the little fiber cable gets messed around when they're moving it around, and then I have like some sort of dip. It's okay. Sorry for the dip. That's what the Bitcoin market said. So, anyways, during the quarter, the company approved a plan to buy up $100 million of its own stock in the 24 months starting March 16, 2022. Now, this is obviously pretty common. This has been going on for a while, where these companies are purchasing back, buying back, doing stock splits. We've been talking about them for a while. And then the actual mining companies, not the hardware manufacturers like you see here, the mining companies that are buying the hardware are getting loans to purchase the hardware from companies like Canaan. The interesting argument here would be that if you see, and this is not financial advice, but if you see the hardware to mine Bitcoin continue to sell and continue to increase on the network, right? Regardless of the price of Bitcoin, to me, it seems like a pretty good purchase at some point, depending on the shares and whatever else, to purchase in technology companies, right? Or like manufacturers, the Intels, the AMDs, the NVIDIAs, like all during this bear market, to me seems like a good idea if you can hold on to it. As you guys know, I prefer revenue, but Canaan, Bitmain, whatever those may be, right? At least better than purchasing from like Hut 8 or Hive or something like that, right? Purchasing stock from them. For the full year, Canaan posted a $361.2 million profit compared with a $31.5 million loss in 2020. At the Bitcoin conference in Miami in April, the mining machine maker released a new model, the Avalon 1266, which rakes in 100 terahash a second of computing power at 35 joules per terahash of power efficiency. That's less than MicroBT's new WhatsMiner M50S, which features 126 terahash a second of computing power and 26 joules per terahash efficiency, and Bitmain's new S19 XP hybrid that can hit 255 terahash a second at 20.8 joules per terahash. So it's on the downside of all that, right? Last article for the day. Biden administration wants crypto exchanges to separate customer and corporate funds. All right, so this one's interesting. Federal officials saw Coinbase's admission about customers' vulnerability in a bankruptcy and will call for a congressional action to segregate clients' funds, sources say. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration will press Congress to demand cryptocurrency exchanges keep their customers' money separate from their own corporate funds, according to a person familiar with the plan that could constrain the way the industry does business. This is kind of interesting because if you do recall, when Coinbase was when we were kind of going into this crazy bear market, and then we had that, I guess the largest dip so far, down to $25,000. Coinbase released a statement that essentially said something along the lines, and I'll need to pull it up here in a little bit, but along the lines of the funds that are in Coinbase in the event that Coinbase went bankrupt or that entity went bankrupt would not be the user's funds. They would be Coinbase's funds, and that would be used to resolve the debts during the bankruptcy, essentially, which was a very odd move and seemed a little funky. So maybe that's where this is coming from. Spurred by Coinbase's recent disclosure, which was this one. No risk of bankruptcy, but, the disclosure language is the SEC requirement, and that's what the CEO said, but it was kind of interesting. Anyways, I don't know if we can find the actual statement. Yeah, because custodially held crypto assets may be considered to be the property of the bankruptcy estate. In the event of a bankruptcy, the crypto asset we hold in custody on behalf of our customers could be subject to bankruptcy proceedings, and such customers could be treated as our general unsecured creditors. All right, so spurred on by that, it would be jammed up if the company declared bankruptcy. Federal officials intend to push U.S. lawmakers to fix the problem by insisting that a future legal framework require crypto firms to keep customer assets walled off. That type of custodial rule is standard for financial firms such as futures platforms, but crypto exchanges routinely mingle their funds with customers' holdings in the same pot, a situation the administration wants to see ended by legislation. The securities industry commonly commingles funds, but the investments are also more heavily regulated. Federal officials will push in the coming weeks to put the change into any crypto bill considered by Congress, the person said. Building on a contention last year in the president's working group on financial markets report on stablecoins, companies that host crypto wallets need close federal oversight. There should be a clear distinction between, of course, self-custodial wallets and then centralized exchanges. So this is where things get interesting, right? And I don't know how this is all going to work out. I don't even know if this administration or anybody that's currently within the federal government in the US even understands. If I went and said to them, look, I get it. Yes, go ahead and regulate the centralized exchanges. I understand that. Look, you're already working with them. They're moving funds between, the fiat currency system, the US dollar, and crypto. I think that I actually am fine with that because I'm also not a huge fan of the centralized exchanges by and large. And like we've talked about before, for the most part, like they are participating within both ecosystems. But there seems to be a confusion for a lot of people when it comes to self-custody, right? Like generating your own wallets and like self-custodying your crypto. You're not going to be able to go to Ledger or Trezor or MetaMask and be like, hey, look, we're going to regulate you guys. They're only tools, right? It'd be like trying to regulate the Ridge wallet, right? That's essentially what it would be. There's a difference between regulating a card and then regulating this Ridge wallet, right? It's a tool. So I'm wondering if they really even understand these differences when they're talking about this, because that's, I don't know. That line kind of worries me. The administration thinks the trading platform should still permit pooling of customers' assets, allowing the companies to keep managing trades internally rather than having to put each move on a blockchain. The administration thinks the trading platform should still permit pooling of customers' assets, allowing the company to keep managing trades internally rather than having to put each move on the blockchain. I would rather it go the opposite direction. Personally, I would rather that they are forced to put every single change on the blockchain for full transparency. That's me, though. Coinbase, a publicly traded company that is one of the industry's largest exchanges, admitted in a filing to the Securities and Exchange Commission last week that, quote, in the event of a bankruptcy, the crypto assets we hold in custody on behalf of our customers could be subject to bank proceedings, and such customers could be treated as our generational unsecured creditors, end quote. That's the bottom rung of people paid back when a company fails, suggesting a misstep by Coinbase could indefinitely lock up clients' tokens or funnel them away to pay other creditors. Quote, don't think you actually own your tokens when you go into a digital wallet, end quote. Securities and Exchange Commission Chair Gary Gensler said at the conference last week. Oh my God, this terminology needs to get fixed a lot. Yes, your phone, your funds, your crypto, not your keys, not your crypto. There are digital wallets where you control your keys, okay? They need to start understanding crypto before they start making f***ing rules about crypto. This is just ridiculous. Like, it's like painful to like read it. He's correct, but he's incorrect. Like, it's frustrating because like these distinctions are incredibly important when we start talking about people that are regulating the industry. These are, every single piece needs to be articulate and clear. And when they start writing, of course, all of these policies, if they're not articulate and clear between the difference of controlling your keys to a digital wallet and a centralized exchange, then it's just going to be a freaking mess, bro. Underlining some of the federal government's concerns about custody of investors' assets. Quote, if the platform goes down, guess what? You just have a counterparty relationship with the platform. Get in line in the bankruptcy courts, end quote. When a firm takes a customer's tokens, they can use them as they will, Gensler pointed out. In fact, the exchanges are, quote, often trading against you, end quote, he said. And since customers lost billions in the wreckage of Luna's algorithmic stablecoin, we talked about this. We knew that we knew that was going to be utilized to regulate further. I mean, that was like hands down, like that was going to happen. The question is, how much of an advantage are they going to take from that? And then is there that tinfoil hat of, was this the whole BlackRock thing? I know that they said that they didn't have any part to do with it, but as far as like looking at the purchases in the blockchain, anyways, it looked suspicious. It's just like, it's getting to the point of like, the plays are so clearly obvious. It's just hilarious. And they're going to use it for his investor protection advocacy, right? And to gain momentum for it. Obviously, never let a good, never let a good tragedy go to waste, or whatever that line is. Quote, congressional Democrats will follow his lead and escalate their calls for greater oversight, end quote, predicted Jarrett Seinberg, a Washington-based analyst at Cohen Group Incorporated, in a research note this week. The troubles with Terra USD and the drop in crypto valuations will make it politically more challenging for Republicans to effectively oppose Gensler's policy agenda. There you go. For its part, Coinbase staggered by a loss of more than 80% in its share price since last year, assured its nervous customers and investors that the distressing splash of its SEC filing wasn't meant to signal anything about its prospects. Founder and CEO Brian Armstrong said that the disclosures were merely responding to a new SEC requirement, and his company isn't in danger of filing for bankruptcy protection. For now, crypto's leading platforms, also including names such as Binance.us, FTX, and Kraken, don't need to strain themselves to meet the administration's push for a custody rule. A closely divided and essentially immobile Congress isn't likely to produce legislation this year, especially as lawmakers gear up for the bloody arena of the midterm elections in November. The most optimistic guesses see a crypto bill getting traction when the dust settles on the new Congress next year. But not everybody sees fencing off customers' money as the best answer. Quote, instead of focusing on the lack of client asset segregation at digital asset exchanges, which is also true with the securities held in street name at DTCC, legislators should work on a digital asset investor program or protection act that mirrors the Securities Investor Protection Act, end quote, said David Weisberger, co-founder and CEO of CoinRoots Incorporated. It could give investors primary status in bankruptcy proceedings, and it could also set up a backstop fund to cover losses like the one securities investors have. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me as well. For others, a law banning firms from blending customers' assets with their own would still represent a bare minimum for those calling for rigorous investor safeguards. Quote, "There's a lot more that has to be done," end quote, said Patrick McCarty, a financial consultant and former regulator who teaches crypto classes at Georgetown Law. He said segregated accounts would be a significant step forward, but argued strict regulations and deeper overhaul of business model are needed to return to crypto's founding ideas about recording every transaction and on, obviously, a public ledger. Why would one advocate for a band-aid, albeit significant, when it looks like major surgery is needed to protect investors? McCarty said. And really, this does come back down to talking about the fundamentals of cryptocurrency, encouraging people to self-custody and encouraging people to get their cryptocurrency off of large exchanges. And that needs to, by and large, be done by the individual. You can't just, rely on daddy government to protect your investments when you make a bad decision. You need to take responsibility, own up for it. And also you need to learn to protect your own assets, right? Protect your own assets. All right. Self-custody, get it off of exchanges. Learn how to do that. As far as regulations, there's no way they're going to be able to regulate paper wallets or anything like that. Learn how to use those and get familiar with it, right? That's the goal. Let's talk about mining profitability for the day. It's looking like another good day today. I think it's looking like a good day today. Unpaid balance is 0.06, but yesterday was absolutely insane. I think we already had, today's the 19th, right? We already had one payout for 0.05 ETH. Yesterday we had a payout for 0.13 ETH. 17th we had a payout for 0.05. Our hash rate for the past hour is 5.79. For the last 6 hours is 5.72 gigahash a second. We also dropped our power consumption by moving 3 rigs to the R mode by about 2,000 watts so far. I think once I get all of my cards moved over, we will be probably actually be able to build a couple more rigs and deploy them out there now at this point. So I'm working on that. Crazy Pool is just a crazy. It's killing it. I don't even know what to tell you guys. Yesterday, basically, we did $255 in Ethereum on 5 gigahash. Yeah! What? So, if you guys were on Crazy Pool, congratulations. It was a great pool. And on 5 gigahash, we did $255, and your mileage may vary. What can I tell you? At this point, we'll have to see if they continue to have incredibly crazy luck. Right? So, it does look like the luck is, still pretty good. It's not slowing down a ton. Slowed down a little bit here for a tad. I am also mining Ryo, just on their main pool with 2 2080 Ti's. And we've earned 205 Ryo so far. Look, I'm high on Ryo. I'm thinking I want a little bit of a security and privacy token. Luck pool's down. I can't show you guys the stats for that. All right. Let's take a look at mining profitability on what to mine for the RTX 3090 at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Let's go ahead and correct the Zell hash rate here and calculate that out. Ethereum, $2.95 a day before power. $2.18 a day after power. We're now under $3 a day per 100 mega hash. It's getting rough out there. Cero at $1.56 a day after power, $2.35 a day before power. Conflux at $1.43 a day after power. Nice hash, Zell hash for Flux is at $1.48 a day after power, but if you mine it directly, it's only $1.26 a day after power. Equilibria is at $1.50 a day after power. Rio, $1.32 a day after power. Cortex, $1.28 a day after power. And Ravencoin, $1.08 a day after power. Scrolling down, Ergo's at $1.16 a day after power. And Firo at $1.04 a day after power, with Ethereum Classic barely hitting $1 a day after power. Mining pool stats, I presume we will still be around 230 exahash a second on Bitcoin. As stated, we are. So no huge surprise there. It does seem like with those quarterly profits of Canaan, we will be seeing, and the projections were already upped by 0.5 exahash. We're going to be seeing more hash rate hit the Bitcoin network. It's going to be very, very competitive and difficult. Ethereum at 1.1 petahash a second. Still kind of just sitting on that same difficulty, slowly going up and getting more painful, and we're starting to feel it. Ethereum Classic is at 25.87 terahash a second. The difficulty is diving, but starting to kind of balance out there. Take a look at Flux, which is at 1.6 mega solutions a second. It's dipped off and remained steady since the great hash rate migration. Ergo is at 14.79 terahash a second, with a little spike that happened. As you can see, we are starting to hit that delayed difficulty spike again. Firo is at 79.95 gigahash a second. It's actually been slowly going up, I think, since the migration. And Ravencoin, I'm presuming no real changes on Ravencoin. And no, it's at 2.85 terahash a second. It's also kind of thrown off because of whatever happened here not too long ago. Mining pool profitability. Let's get into it. For the last 90 days, mining pool hub in first, F2 pool in second, flex pool in third. For the last 60 days, Ethermine in first, F2 pool in second, flex pool in third. For the last 30 days, Ethermine in first, mining pool hub in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 21 days, Ethermine in first, mining pool hub in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 14 days, Ethermine in first, crazy pool in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 7 days, crazy pool in first, Nano pool in second, Crux pool in third. For the last 3 days, crazy pool in first, Nano pool in second, F2 pool in third. And of course, for the last day, because we saw what happened, crazy pool in first, Ethermine in second, F2 pool in third. ASIC mining profitability. We have the KD6 at 35.25 a day, Antminer L7 at 26.47 a day, and the KD5 at a measly 23.04 a day. Those are really expensive for what you're getting out of them. The Z15's at $10 a day, and if we go down to the S19 Pro, we're at $7.54 a day. Let's check out BT Miners, who will be the sponsor of tonight's video, by the way, which will be coming out at 6 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you set your clock. Oh, do we have any good deals? We're trying to get rid of the A11s on the combos. Gold Shell KD box plus the HS box, 6,300. Are there any sales? No sales, no sales. No. The only decrease in price, I guess, would have been the KD box down to 5,100. That still seems extremely expensive right now. I'm wondering what happens here with all the ASIC miners, boys. Because like we talked about today, we saw that essentially we see, you know, Q1 record profits tripling for a ASIC mining company that frankly makes the worst Bitcoin ASIC miner on the market. We see the Bitcoin hash rate to continue to go up. And the only thing that's there, like, man, there's just not, it's kind of disappointing. Typically what you would expect and what I would expect is that with the market downturn going into a bear market, we would start to get ASIC miners for Bitcoin at lower, cheaper costs, and we would be able to expand into that for our farms that are kind of medium sized, and we would start to be able to hedge and get some Bitcoin mining going. It doesn't seem to be proving out to be true. And typically, you know, early on, I would always talk about, you know, the GPU mining, obviously at the lower level, the home miner section, whatever. Smarter to just do GPUs, you have more coins and so on. And that was kind of leaning towards this, well, we could hedge towards some like ASICs, but this pricing doesn't make much sense. This pricing doesn't make much sense, and it just makes me feel like you just keep expanding into GPUs and hopefully have some sort of, you know, light at the end of the tunnel post-merge for Ethereum. That being said, in addition to that, I'm also very kind of, I've been questioning how much of the Ethereum hash rate is ASICs. I think there's a significant amount, but it's hard to tell. I know, like when we talked about Serpent, the original estimates, you know, were somewhere around like 40 to 50%. Now, you know, a lot of these guys are saying, well, maybe it's more closer to like 70%, which then you only have to worry about 30% of the hash rate coming off, right? And then you have options like Ergo to mine, which are really good. You have options like, of course, Flux, Ravencoin. And if only 30% of the hash rate is GPUs, maybe it's not so bad, because also like the large GPU mining companies might just shut down, right? People like HUD 8. Let's get into questions and answers. Remember, super chats are never required, always appreciated, first to be read because they are highlighted. In addition to that, make sure that you tag @SonOfATech with any questions or statements, and I'll read it on the channel. We have a little bit of time, but not much. We went over, it was a long show today. The poll for which new GPUs are you excited for? RTX 4000, 56% of you, and the RX 7000, 43% of you. Man, we got some NVIDIA fanboys up in here that don't care that they're just pumping power out and not actually improving any architectural designs. I'm disappointed in you. All right, let's get into it. I really only have like a couple minutes before I got to go. Texas A says, @SonOfATech, have you noticed the daily emissions of coins on mining pool stats? I noticed that most coins seem to only put out maybe a few $1,000 a day worth of coins versus 25 million a day for ETH. Thoughts post merge? Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. Like we've talked about, price discovery is going to have to be there. The hope is that we really do have a ton of ASICs on there that are just going to shut down, right? I mean, that's really at the end of the day, because there's not going to be enough revenue to be generated by all the smaller coins. Papa Lip says, @SonOfATech, I know things have been tough these days. Keep your head up. Thanks, man. Raven Boy Crypto says, @SonOfATech, last bull run, how long did it take for prices on ASICs to get dirt cheap? I'm trying to think. I guess it would have been, I believe it was like February. Wasn't it like February was the peak, and then you had the big crash? Everything had settled down by April or March, which was about just a couple months from the all-time high. It really didn't take long. Weren't ASICs starting to, like, I know GPUs were starting to take a dump for sure. And then GPUs got extremely cheap in like July and August, which would have been like 5 or 6 months out. John Paul Jones says, @SonOfATech, do you have a Cero wallet? If so, how do I get it? It doesn't take 5 years to sync up data. No, I don't have a Cero wallet. Leia Chow says, at Simon Tech, I'm against government overreach, but what about unfair competition? What if NVIDIA, AMD, or Bitmain start their own mining operation? They already do this a lot. What will be interesting is to see the results of NVIDIA's SEC problem, right? Where they're in trouble with the SEC for not reporting cryptocurrency mining on their sheets. Was that just because of selling hardware to cryptocurrency miners, or were they mining it themselves? I'm assuming part of that's the latter, because if they're just selling hardware, then to me, it doesn't seem like they have to tell anybody about who they don't have to necessarily register what type of companies they're selling to. I didn't really understand that fully. Let me know what you guys think. I think that potentially there is basically a hint that they were already doing that to a certain extent. Jacob Madsen says, "Ask Simontek, I thought Raya was a dead coin. Why did you decide to mine it now?" They are not a dead coin. They just had a few updates recently, and then they got accepted on, what was it, guys? I forgot now. They're on a new platform as well. And this happened just recently. Oh, come on. Let me pull up the Twitter. Was it in May? Anyways. Dapsy. They got listed on dapsy.io. Dapsy. That's what it was, my friends. Thanks for the $5 super chat from Ursus. Says, thank you for the content, details, and info. Keep up the great work and stay on the path and on the mats, fellow BJJ brother. Oos. Should you buy, says that Tech, is it advisable to run 2 cards for 240 watts total from a single PCIe cable? How much can one PCIe cable safely provide? 2 cards. That should be fine. Yeah, because it's what? I forgot now. The 8-pin PCIe power standard. I wanted to say, I thought maybe it was 175. It's been a while now, so maybe it isn't. Maximum wattage is 3 plus 12 volt wires times the 4.16 amps each is 150 watts maximum wattage. But that was in 2010, and I thought, you gotta ask me questions that I can't remember. I thought it was like around 150 to 175, so maybe no. 240 would be too much, right? Golly. I hate how you can't just pull up specifications. There we go. Here we go. This connector is to provide a 12 volt power to PCI Express expansion cards. Many video cards draw significantly more than 75 watts provided by the motherboard slot, so the 6-pin PCI Express power cable was created. This is the 8-pin version. Oh, but you won't tell me the voltage. Or the amperage. Just the pin out. Dang it. I believe it's 150 watts. Maybe you guys can help me out in chat. Fried Electronics says, and maybe Fried Electronics knows, says, at Scientific, you don't need to make a custom flight sheet for Hive TRM.10. You can create a flight sheet the standard way and select the latest for the minor version. Probably because they just updated it last night. They did not have that updated when it released 15 minutes and I was starting to deploy it. Jay Weaver says, at Scientific, I don't understand the pool ratings. Boy Matthew says he likes the hat. What do you mean you don't understand the pool ratings? The pool ratings are based on the amount of crypto per 100 mega hash that pool paid out in the past amount of days. So in 90 days, 60 days, a day, last week or whatever. It means the pool that's in first place paid the most crypto out. That's all it is. Patel says, at Son of a Tech, do you think crypto will be bullish anytime soon? No. Not till 2025. Small Mining Channel says, at Son of a Tech, I voted on NVIDIA, man. Stop it. Emin says, at Son of a Tech, hash rate migration this Friday. Next Friday, the 27th, it is scheduled in the Discord. Ronaldo Medina says, at Son of a Tech, I think the problem with NVIDIA is that they mislead their investors claiming to increase in revenue because of gaming sales when in fact a big part was crypto mining sales. See, I wonder how that works because are you required to... I guess that could be misleading, right? Yeah, that's fair. Lucas Oates says, at Son of a Tech, NVIDIA did not accurately disclose how many GPUs they sold to miners. If more GPUs went to miners, this would maybe impact their stock because crypto is volatile. And we would see what happened to, what was the company? TSMC? But remember, we talked about this, right? TSMC didn't report it. They pulled it out of their recent reports and they're not in trouble. Why is TSMC not in trouble? Because they're Taiwanese? Keith Betts says, all right, on lunch break. Awesome. Good timing. Awesome, dude. Gandalf Gray says, thank you for the content, bro. You're an inspiration. What address can I throw some hash power to? Should be in the description down below. You can just throw it to the Ethereum address in the description. I would appreciate it, but no, it's not required. Battlefish says, that's Tech 150 watt per connector. Correct. Right. That's what I was thinking. But the wattage of the cable is determined by the gauge of the wire. Right. Correct. But you still have a limit on the connector, right? Right, so because the connector is 150 watts for an 8-pin, I'm trying to remember, because we've done this a ton of different times. Because I've always told everybody not to use the splitters, right? The single 6-pin to like dual 8-pin or whatever. Like there's some weird Chinese ones you can get that like do that, and I've always said don't do that. So the limit's on the connector, but the limit could be even worse on the cable if the cable gauge isn't sufficient. CryptoMan 5000 says, at Son of a Tech, I'm late, haven't been around. When is ETH not going to be mineable? Tomorrow. Just turn them off now. Turn it off now. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm headed to Jiu-Jitsu. Once again, just as a reminder, the Crypto Clips channel is a separate channel now. We are trying to get it monetized. It is definitely impacting the monetization of this channel, which has decreased significantly over the past couple days, with also the lowest views we've ever had. So I'm definitely questioning this move. As much as people do not like the clips on this channel, it is very stressful to be making more content, doing more, and making less. That is extremely stressful. But we're going to keep on, push on. So go subscribe to, we need, I think, 1,000 subs over there to get it monetized, and then hopefully it starts growing and we'll get it figured out. Then tonight we will have another dedicated video at 6 p.m. Central Time, so make sure you have the notifications turned on because there is no dual content on this channel anymore. So please do that. It would help. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Don't forget to hit the likes and shares and all that. Detroit Irish, all the clips are on the Clips channel. So we're not going to include episode numbers or anything. There'll just be a link to the episode down below. It's on a separate channel, so you don't have to even worry about it over here anymore. It's going to take a little work to get it all sorted.